Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a collaboration that has been I'd say about 4 or 5 months in the making. It's about time that we finally got together. But we got a lot to talk about today. We're talking all things college football here on the Southern sports scene. Make sure you all do us a favor. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short on the Southern sports scene. Every live show brought to you by our good friends at FrostBuddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com. Use the promo code SSS15 and get 15% off your first purchase. That's code SSS15 on all things mugs, tumblers, and cups. We also want to thank our friends at Chike Nutrition. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar, in every healthy, hearty cup of Chike Nutrition iced coffee. Get your day started with the best protein iced coffee on the market. And as always, we want to thank our good friends at Buzzer for allowing us to put our videos, our great work on their platform. Download the Buzzer app today to see if you can become a verified creator today. Mitch Mason, 3 Tech Pod, joining us. Mitch, like I said, this has been a collaboration that has been a long time in the making. Good to see you, good sir. How are we today?
Man, we're doing good. Yeah, it's been a while. We've been trying to make something like this work on your channel. We've been trying to make something like this work on my channel. I think we're going to have you back here very, very shortly as well. But yeah, get to talk some college football. I think we're 7 Saturdays away from week 0. So that's always exciting. That perks you up when you hear that.
No kidding. So a lot that we have to talk about, obviously, but I obviously want to talk about the big news that we got from the video game side of things. Executives came out. College Football 27 released a statement saying that they are no longer putting out the microtransactions in the games, which is something that we never wanted in the first place with a college football video game. Glad that it's happened, but we're still talking about EA Sports. They've done this for Madden. They've done this for other games they put out like NBA Live, which hasn't been around in almost 8 years. Who's to say that this doesn't come back in 2028? Mitch, what are your thoughts on College Football 27 officially taking out microtransactions for offline mode?
Yeah, I think it was at the bare minimum. I think it was their, in case of emergency, break glass, last resort. We, based on the statement that they put out, it is going to come back in 2028. I'm sure they're going to try and couch it a little different. I think by step one, if you are going to introduce microtransactions to even just online modes, right? Like even if you're going to alter the way that works, if you're going to increase or introduce a pay for play model, you'd better tell your fans about it. I think that's what miffed most of us Dynasty fans and Road to Glory fans. Still really haven't gotten the answer that they're looking for, but it was hidden from us, right? And you saw the YouTube community rise up. You saw college football Twitter rise up. We wrote an article, I think as soon as, forgotten what day that really popped off, but as soon as it became abundantly clear, hey, microtransactions are in the game, they've removed settings. I wrote an article, put it over on our Substack, and it instantly in one day became the most read piece over on our Substack. I mean,
Wow.
folks were furious about the removal of the sandbox, right? That's what EA has billed this game, this series as, is, hey, we're all diehard fans that want to play the game and enjoy the traditions our way, and this game allows you to do that. And when they introduced those microtransactions and kind of guided the way that you had to play or you had to pay to speed things up, that rubbed everybody the wrong way. And I couldn't find really anybody that was opposing the college football community. There were some people that were saying, oh, it's maybe not that bad, but I was proud of the way that that content creators everywhere kind of stepped up and spoke their mind and ultimately got the change that they wanted.
Do you think if it's not for the content creators, EA still does this? Because keep in mind, there's been content creators that have done this for Madden, but it doesn't feel like the voices have been heard a lot, especially over the past 15 years.
Yeah, the frustrating thing about EA and the situation that the content house finds itself in, right, as far as a game engine, Uh, Gaming in general is going underwater. Economically, the industry has not produced the returns and the results that were forecast 5-10 years ago, right? Xbox just put out a massive email laying off 1,600 employees at the beginning of this week. They're going to lay off another, I think it's 1,100 by next year. And their CEO, who's not from the gaming world, she came over from, I think it was private equity. She basically said, hey guys, like we're insolvent. We're losing 60 cents on every dollar that we spend. Here's why, and here's our plan to fix it. EA is not immune to that. And as a result, they've been or are in the process of being sold to a private equity fund owned by the Saudis. And so, as a part of that, they're going to have to take on $20 billion in debt that they've got to offset somewhere. I read that the Ultimate Team modes make about $4 billion a year. I think that's collectively, but that's a staggering figure. So you can understand why the suits would go, okay, if we need to make up 20 billion and we've seen people are willing to pay for it, let's slip it into the college football game. The problem is the discrepancy between the suits and the developers as far as understanding of the fan base is the Grand Canyon, right? The guys in the boardroom have no idea what it's like to be an actual fan, whereas the developers could create a game, put out a great product, and communicate with us on a fan-to-fan basis. And I think that's what rubbed everybody so wrong is we love the developers. We love the work that they're doing. The game is fantastic, but to have that disconnect was pretty offensive.
Yeah, and honestly, man, I wish that from a fan perspective, I wish that EA would listen to their own fan base instead of their own board of directors because this is really what it's all about. And if it wasn't for these content creators that partner with EA, which was surprising to me, what surprised me the whole thing is that the board that EA actually listened to their content creators because they know at the end of the day they're the ones that are responsible for promoting their game and promoting their product. They're the ones that are going to bring in the revenue that they need in order to succeed. That's why you have this whole basically it felt like a meltdown when we officially had the opening week of the college football game out and nobody wanted to play it.
Yeah, it was impressive to see guys like Bordeaux, not the expert, Bangle, guys that have built their careers on doing this, guys that are living their life and building a livelihood off of playing this game say, hey, I'm not going to partner with EA going forward. I know Bordeaux has said that will never be fixed. He feels like he's been cheated on. I don't know about the rest of the creators. And honestly, I wouldn't fault them for continuing to work with EA. It's a business transaction at the end of the day, right? And there does have to be some separation, I think, of church and state between personal feelings and things that you've got to do to get the bills paid. But if you are in the camp of Bordeaux, and I put that out on Twitter as well. Hey EA, if you're not going to prioritize the fan and the actual game experience, you just want to make a quick buck. I have no problem not buying your game ever again. Right? The old titles are fine. This game is fine. I'm getting to the age where, hey, I probably shouldn't be playing college football video game, an hour or two every night anyway. I've got other things to get done. So I think they are still in danger of losing part of the original gamer club that they had, right? Like I am a part of that original generation that grew up and played that game every Saturday for sure, waiting for games to start at 11 a.m. Central. They're in danger of losing people like me forever because of the way that they've handled this. And I don't know if they're going to end up clawing people back. I'm probably not coming back after this year, but it will be interesting to see truly what the fallout is 3, 6, 12 months from now.
It's going to be interesting for sure. And I'm really intrigued to see what EA's response to this whole situation is because this has been nothing but just a PR nightmare for them.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even recover from something like this when it basically you turned your back on your whole franchise? It's one thing when they do it with Madden because their ratings have been absolutely horrible all year long, but yet you still majority of their big time partners that they have, their voices are going to be heard a lot more compared to guys that are calling out Madden for their BS, their watered down franchise mode that's been absolutely god awful since the turn to the Xbox One. And you're just not going to see the same type of response from them as in a college football game, because the big difference is you have creators that have invested their time from NCAA 14 on with the different modifications that were part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And now the fact that we waited over 10 years for a video game for this. First 2 years have been pretty good to say the least. And then you get to the third year and already things looked very similar to what Madden is about to end up in. And it's scary. No question about it.
Yeah, I think I put this out as well. I have a background in marketing and I've worked in PR as well, and I felt like the biggest error that EA made in this entire process, aside from the act of putting the transactions in, was not having any semblance of PR strategy to get through this. Right? I mean, it truly felt like it took the PR team wholly by surprise that we were upset with this in general, and then the way that they handled it too, right? Delaying making any sort of announcement. The first response was a fact sheet. I mean, it was literally a Google document, a Google Drive doc sent out to their creator network saying, hey, let us remind you, this is in the game, this is in the game, this is in the game. That went over about as well as you would expect. And then for them to take as long as they did to just make things right. Hey, we're going to, when you say in every other press release, oh, we value community feedback, we're listening to the community, and then it takes you as long as you did to actually give the community what you wanted. For me, that entire PR team, if their job seat is not hot yet, it should be boiling by this point, because they straight up failed to do their job.
It's a good transition over to our top 10 wide receivers in college football. Mitch, I put out my top 10 quarterback list earlier this week. I was going to discuss that briefly on the show yesterday. However, that got moved up to today due to extenuating circumstances. I want to talk about my top 10 wide receivers for this upcoming season. And I think that there's a lot of mixed bag this year. There's not a real secure top 10 or even a top 5. ESPN has already released their rankings, and I absolutely took their page and ripped it to shreds because it made absolutely no sense to me. But I don't know if you have yours come up with yet.
Yeah, well, so I think I have an idea of what my top 10 would be. I don't necessarily set something in stone, but certainly enough to have a conversation. And I did when you asked me to come on and talk top 10 wide receivers, did a lot of research to figure out, hey, where are other people ranking some of these lists? And ESPN and On3 had two lists that could not have been more different from each other. Certainly gave me a chuckle as I was reading over those.
Absolutely. So this is my top 10. Number 10, I have DeCorian Moore from Oregon. Number 9, I have Mario Craver from Texas A&M. 8, I have Amari Thomas from Houston. 7, I have Charlie Becker from Indiana. 6, I got Cooper Barkate from Miami. You're going to laugh at number 5. Danny Sudero from Colorado, the NCAA's receiving yards leader this past season. Yeah. KJ Duff from Rutgers. Malachi Tony at 3 from Miami. Cam Coleman at 2 from Texas. Jeremiah Smith at 1 from Ohio State, which, in my opinion, should be the unanimous number 1 coming back.
I really like that list. I don't have an issue with anybody that you just named. There's a lot of lists out there that I was reading through, and they had maybe Charlie Becker was in the top 5. I think he's good. I don't know if he's top 5 quite yet, right? Nick Marsh made number 5 on ESPN, and I am a Nick Marsh guy. We did a fantasy draft on the show 2 years ago when he was a true freshman. I picked him in my true freshman slot. Love what he's capable of doing. Didn't really get to do everything that I think we hoped he would at Michigan State on a bad football team. But sky's the limit for him at Indiana. But at the same time, like we haven't seen him produce to be inside the top 5. I'm glad you gave KJ Duff more respect at Rutgers. I think he might be maybe the second best wide receiver in the Big Ten. North Texas transfer, balled out at Rutgers last year. He's back for one more year. Yeah, I mean, you tell me where you want to take this because I think your list is fair. I thought it more accurately covered kind of the depth at wide receiver as opposed to some of these other national lists.
Do you believe that Ryan Coleman Williams is a top 10 wide receiver?
I don't. Not after
Thank
last
you.
year.
Thank you.
You got to catch the football to be a top 10 wide receiver and he didn't do a
Thank
lot
you.
of that last year.
Thank you. In my opinion, and this is as plain as can be, Ryan Williams was a one-trick pony that had a fantastic game against Georgia.
Hmm.
Ever since then, what has he done that has been so impressive? He's got the size, he's got amazing speed, but his what he has done on the field does not qualify him as a top 10 receiver in college football. And in my opinion, it doesn't qualify him as even a top 10 receiver in this upcoming draft. Which, and nonetheless, I still think they're going to pick him within the first 3 rounds, even though I believe wholeheartedly he's not worthy of one of those rounds.
Yeah, he reminds me of a couple of guys that we've seen teams take based off of traits, right? Two names stuck out to me, not necessarily because they're identical, but Jamison Williams, taken by the Lions, that's obviously worked out to a decent extent. It felt like they had to kind of figure out how to use him. Slow start to the career, but he's been dynamic since. Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. I think he just got released from the Giants. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's up in the Meadowlands anymore. A guy that I could not have been lower on coming out of college. I felt like he knew how to run the deep route, and that was about it. A lot of NFL draft gurus, a lot of Twitter personalities were in love with his athleticism. I said he can't bend, he can't really run routes. I've gotten out of the draft scouting game, quite honestly, because I don't have time to do that anymore. But if there was a victory lap to take on a guy that I said stay away from, I feel like Jalen Hyatt might be the guy. I'm not necessarily lumping Ryan Coleman Williams in with them directly, but I do think NFL people will be a lot higher on him because of the traits, because of the athleticism, the ability to make you miss in space. Those things you can't really teach. There will be some offensive coordinator, some wide receiver coach that goes, I can teach him how to catch the football. I can cut down on those drops. And that's the risk that you'll run on draft day.
I remember when Jalen Hyatt was coming out of the draft whenever I think I was 18 whenever he came out. And everybody was just raving about his speed down the field. But I watched him whenever he was at Tennessee. I looked at the offense that they run. You had a guy that was probably, if he doesn't get hurt, he wins the Heisman Trophy in Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
He has an offense that revolves around throwing the football down the field. I mean, I just didn't see a scenario where Jalen Hyatt was going to be successful in the NFL. I just didn't. But to your point on Ryan, I don't know how a guy like him is not. Here's where I'm at on him, because I love his athleticism. I love what he brings. The problem is that Bama fans have gotten to the point where they're this close to giving up on him.
Yeah.
He hasn't produced like we expected him to following that Georgia game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's a guy that's been averaging maybe 3, 4, 5 catches a game, averages around 60, 75 yards a game. That's really it. He's just a prototypical wide receiver. The only issue is that he's a big name, and he's a guy that you were expecting a hell of a lot more out of, especially after what we saw 2 seasons ago. So this is obviously make or break for him. I don't know if he is going to be able to produce the same way he was. I could be wrong, but I just don't see him at the end of the day being a productive NFL wide receiver when it's all said and done. I don't see him even within my top 15.
Yeah, will the real Ryan Coleman Williams please stand up? I think is where I find myself. Last year obviously was so disappointing. I think he's somewhere in the middle. I would love to hope that he's somewhere closer to that freshman form, but you put a target on your back now, and now it's time to go prove it.
What do you think about Danny Sudero at 5?
I love him. He was so productive at San Jose State. I'm not I'm not in on Colorado. The viral clip of Juju Lewis talking about we were just kind of high school balling it from Big 12 media days kind of encompasses what I've thought of Colorado. I don't think it's a serious staff. I don't think
It's not.
It's not a place where you go and develop as a talent. Dion can make all the headlines he wants, but listen, the way that he treated Sean Lewis was reprehensible. We've seen how good he is now that he's moved over to San Diego State again. And all the big game talent that goes there for the sizzle realizes there's no stake there. They're not winning football games, and they transfer out. So I love the wide receiver. I am terrified of what's going to happen in this offense. Talented offense, got some fun names out wide. Are they going to be able to produce? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like the go-go offense. I love it that they got Brennan Marion out from Sac State as your OC.
Yep.
But again, here was what has been the biggest Achilles heel that has been plaguing this team over the last 3 seasons. It's the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
It's let you down a lot. More than you can really imagine. So that's obviously the biggest question mark that I have this upcoming season for Colorado. And yeah, it's not a serious program. I love Dion the man. I understand that. And people are gonna say, oh, well, he was dealing with cancer this year. I understand that. It's obviously a tough thing to go through, especially when you're in the midst of a season like you had this past season.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have guys that are leaving that program and going out into the media and saying, like what Ryan Staub said back in the spring, I learned more in 3 months in this offense than I did in 2 years with Colorado. He didn't name Colorado exactly, but he made it very clear that he gained more of an understanding of how an offense is supposed to run, how to play really the quarterback position at the Division I level much better and more significant than at Colorado. Mm-hmm. And the only and from the offensive perspective for Colorado, the only reason why Pat Shurmur stayed around for 2 or 3 seasons was because they had Deion Sanders that said, or they had Shedeur Sanders that said, hey, I'm going to run my own thing. I know how to throw the football, which he does. And I don't think he was really serious at all. Deion got 3 things to work for him. Both of his sons are in the league. I don't know about Shiloh, but I know that he was at one point in the league. And Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. After that, I think his job is basically done. I don't know what Colorado is going to look like this year. This could be a 5-win program at the end of the season. They may get close to a bowl win, but I just don't see it at the end of the day. What do you think of Amar Thomas at 8 from Houston?
I like him a lot. I was buying a lot of Houston stock last year in our preseason previews. We're in the middle of those right now on our channel, going team by team. And so you get to know a lot of fun characters as you preview each individual team. So I was really high on Houston last year, and I was excited about Thomas and that offense. I think Connor Wegman hopefully takes another small step forward. I don't know that he's going to be a clear-cut NFL quarterback after this season. There's so much quarterback talent that's going to come out in this draft class. So I don't know if that's Wegman's future or not, but he looked more comfortable last year than he was at A&M. I truly don't know what happened in Aggieland. I mean, he looked like the chosen one. He had flashes of brilliance, and then there were other times that he just was seeing ghosts and was not processing the game at an SEC speed. Now, He didn't get the best shake as far as wide receiver talent went at Texas A&M. He had a lot of those gritty possession wide receivers, right? If we're playing the college football video game, but nobody that could get separation. He goes to Houston. He gets in a more open offense. He gets guys that can get separation, and he played much better. And so I think Houston is going to be a contender for the Big 12. I think they're right there in that upper echelon. I know everybody's talking about Texas Tech and BYU, Utah. I've seen a lot of people talking about it as well. We may get to them if we get to the hot takes. I'm not as high on Utah as it seems like a lot of other people are. But I love Thomas from the Cougars. I think he elevates that offense. I think he's going to be a whole lot of fun. There's a guy that's not on your list, though, Lucas, that I wanted to ask you about. You look around, he was on my personal list as well. Deuce Robinson at Florida State. Kind of the NFL talent evaluator's dream, right? Big physical.
That was my honorable mention on there.
Okay. So I was going to ask, how far did he miss did he miss your list by? Because I really enjoy watching him play. Needs to catch the football a little bit more. But boy, you talk about the measurables. He's everything that you want at the next level.
If Deuce Robinson goes to another program, he's probably going to get the football a lot more and he's going to be in a much better position than he is right now at Florida State. That's really the only drawback that I have. I don't know what this offense is going to look like with Ashton Daniels at quarterback. That's my only real concern.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is make or break for Florida State at the end of the year, so we'll see, man. But you did mention the hot takes. You mentioned Utah. Let's get to my first hot take. Utah goes 12-0 this year.
Okay. All right. We're going to have a debate here then, because one of my hot takes was going to be that Utah is not a contender at the end of the year. I would love to hear the case for 12-0. I'll give her a little rebuttal.
Look at the schedule. Look at what they were. I understand that you lose guys on the defensive side of the ball. Losing John Henry Daly is going to be a big ordeal. He was one of the best in the Big 12 off the edge. But the schedule is ridiculously easy. It's ridiculous. It's you have the Holy War at home. You go to Arizona. You get Houston at home. Your non-conference schedule is garbage when you play Idaho, Arkansas, who's probably going to be the worst team in the SEC, and then Utah State. I think that Devin Dampierre is still one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. I think despite what you lost, I think Morgan Scalley has done a really good job building off of that, getting guys through the portal, developing guys to a whole new level. Utah has always had a pretty consistent defense for the most part.
Sure.
And I don't think they'll have an issue at the end of the year, despite losing their arguably, I think they lost most of their offensive line this past year. I could be incorrect there, but I still think that they'll be fine at the end of the season. I think that this is a weak schedule. You obviously have to look at the 3 games that I just mentioned with Houston at home, BYU at home, and then really the only tough test that I see on the road is maybe Cincinnati and Arizona for sure. So I think the schedule is favorable for them. I think they have the roster to go 12-0 this year. I think that Devin Dampierre still has the playmakers to throw the football down the field too, and really evolve his game so much more than what he did this past year. And that's saying something because he had a phenomenal year last year.
He did. That offense was a ton of fun to watch last year. I think they won 10 of their 11 games by double digits, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it's a team that I look back on from last year and go, man, how are they not in Arlington, right? I mean, it felt like they did everything but get to the Big 12 championship game, and there were some questions and some what ifs certainly from that campaign.
Probably should have beaten BYU as well.
Should have.
They had the lead at some point, I believe.
Yeah, they did. BYU pulled off an incredible comeback. And yeah, so I think Utah left last year feeling like, man, we left quite a bit on the table. Here's my counter case when I look at Utah and when I look at the Big 12 schedule. And their schedule is pretty friendly. I'll give you that. They only have 2 returnees who started more than 5 games last year on the offensive side, and you've named them: Devin Dampier, the quarterback; Wayshawn Parker, the running back. Electric, right? You can build any offense around those guys. My concern is the offensive line turns over quite a bit. My concern is Morgan Scalley, now who's known for being a defensive wizard, has to move more into the CEO role. And I think my concern is when they get to the back half of their schedule. Because if I'm looking at their schedule and I identify one tough stretch, it's in the second half. You gave me Cincinnati. I'm not as high on the Bearcats. I don't really know what to expect from that program
I've heard
this
some
year.
people that are, surprisingly.
Yeah. So you got Houston, which is a home game. Very generous home road splits this year. Houston's at home, at Cincinnati. You mentioned they host BYU in the Holy War. Then it's at Arizona, at TCU, and then they'll close with West Virginia, making the cross-country trip. I'm betting that they lose 2 of 3 in that BYU, Arizona, TCU stretch. BYU, I expect to be a very, very good team, and I know they're going on the road, but I expect BYU to win that game. I'm higher, apparently, on Arizona than what seems like a lot of other people were, and I've been in and out on the Brent Brennan experience. Last year, I was trying to give him a little bit more credit than what he had coming in after a disastrous year one, and obviously the Wildcats were much better. TCU always picks off somebody that you would normally say they're not going to win that game late in the year. There is something at Amon G. Carter when it finally cools down. It's on 105 here in the Lone Star State. So if I'm thinking that way and projecting forward that way, well, if BYU wins that game, they've got the head-to-head over Utah. I like BYU's team top to bottom better. Texas Tech also has a frustratingly easy schedule. Mm-hmm. So just based off of those predictions, like, it's pretty easy for me to say Utah doesn't make the Big 12 championship. Now, I can absolutely believe that Utah is going to be a good team. I just struggle to see the 12-0 vision, like, and you're not the only person that I've seen that from. That was actually how I arrived on this take for this episode. Was I'm writing our Big 12 previews right now, doing all of that research. When I got to Utah, I was like, really? Okay, all right, 12-0. Here, okay, I disagree. Here's why.
Second one, ACC gets 2 teams in the college football playoff, and you're not going to believe the second team. Miami, obviously, number 1.
Not SMU, I'm guessing?
SMU is number 2.
Okay. SMU, I think, is a good pick. Those are the 2 odds-on favorites right now to make the ACC championship game. I love SMU. I have had season tickets to them for a number of years. I've covered a number of games from the press box in Dallas. It's a very good team. They weathered the storm last year of replacing a lot of physicality, a lot of beef up front on the defensive side. The offensive line got better, and they just kind of found ways to win. It sounds like you're pretty high on Kevin Jennings here in his final year on the Hilltop.
I love Kevin Jennings. When I talked to him at Manning Passing Academy 2 weeks ago, I mean, he just talked about, just how he's recovered from that ankle injury that he suffered during the second half of the year. And many people forget that, which hindered his mobility this past year. And he talked about how he's been able to gain that mobility back a good bit. He's been running the football much better than he did this past year, which excites me because I know that he's going to have that explosive factor that he had just 2 years ago. He's obviously got to cut back on the turnovers. You can't average an interception a game like he has the past 2 seasons, which has got to get cleaned up. But I think if he has a season eerily similar to what he did in 24, SMU can end up winning 10 games, pull off an upset here and there, and find themselves in the playoff again.
I'll side with you on that. I'm very high on SMU. I think they're going to cut their way through the ACC. So yeah, I would love if SMU could get back to the playoff. They obviously didn't go the way that they wanted a couple of years ago against Penn State. Wind and weather and, just not ready for the moment. That was their first time there. This time around, I think SMU could be one of those teams that you absolutely don't want to face in the playoff.
This is the last one for me. UCLA and USC, the last game of the season, Winner has the better winning record, and I think it's going to be UCLA. UCLA goes 9-3 this season. First year under Bob Chesney,
Yeah.
brought in Dean Kennedy, who's a phenomenal offensive coordinator. This is Dean Kennedy's resume, dating that back to whenever he was at Holy Cross, which Holy Cross had no business being as good as they were whenever Chesney and Dean Kennedy were there.
Mm-hmm.
You know who the quarterback was at Holy Cross?
Matthew Sluka?
That would be Matthew Sluka. Matthew Sluka was a phenomenal football player during that time. Dual threat guy, ends up going to UNLV. We know about the whole situation there. What does he do with Alonzo Barrett? Last 2 seasons were phenomenal with him at the helm. Dual threat quarterback. Put up phenomenal numbers in 2025. Now he arguably gets the best quarterback that he's ever had as an offensive coordinator. And now Nico, who we've only really seen him as a drop back passer since last year. Now we get to see that explosiveness that he showed in the Cheez-It Bowl during his freshman year, which is something that I have been hammering on for a very long time, because it felt like he was a robot in the Heupel offense. It felt like he had nobody around him this past season. And now he's got a chance to rewrite the script that has been written on his story. People have written him off. I think Nico's going to have a breakout season and be a dark horse for the Heisman Trophy too. I really believe that with what Dean Kennedy brings to the table. Kennedy is a phenomenal play caller, phenomenal quarterback developer, and they have the pieces around him so that he can be successful in this offense. I think UCLA has a better season than what people expect. I expect them to compete for an 8-4, 9-3 season at the end of the day, and maybe be a sleeper. I think that USC game is going to be the defining moment for Bob Chesney in his first year. They beat USC in their first year. UCLA is going to be the new best team on the West Coast, aside from what Cal does this year.
Well, that foots the bill, no doubt. That matches the hot take moniker. I think I'm high on UCLA being much improved this year. Maybe not 9-3 and beating USC high, but you do look at the roster, and I mean it's night and day different. You go from a head coach who really had no idea what he was doing. I mean, God bless Deshaun Foster, but he was not equipped for that role. All you had to do was watch his first media day, and you knew this was not going to go well. Chesney's obviously a winner. Now, can he replicate that on the West Coast? Maybe semantics, but obviously all of his success has come on the East Coast. I'm curious to see how that translates. You look at the preseason recruiting, he's obviously doing just fine there. I love the guys that he brought over from James Madison, not just JMU, but some other Sunbelt destinations as well. I think their running game is going to be a whole lot of fun. Wayne Knight was electric last year at JMU. And then the defense. The defense should be a whole lot better. They've been dreadful these past couple of years. I really like what they have off the edge. Shahir West is going to become a household name. Had 7 sacks in a true freshman season last year.
He'll be a first-round draft pick next year.
Yeah, I really, really like what I saw from him. I think their linebacking core is going to be good. Their secondary, they fortified to the transfer portal. Tal Johnson comes over from Utah. DJ Barksdale is coming over from JMU as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to believe in this Bruins team. At the very least, I think that game will be worth watching, right? I mean, it's going into it these past couple of years, even with USC being up and down. It's been like, okay, the Trojans should steamroll here. I don't know what to think about USC. I've given up really trying to predict what the Trojans are gonna put on the field, just because I think Lincoln Riley is so hot and cold. But that would be spicy to get to 9-3 with a win over USC. That would be one to roll the tape back if it happens, no doubt.
Even with 15 returning starters, I still don't believe in USC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, prove it, right? I mean, USC hadn't proven it yet, so I'm in that camp with you that until they do, there's no reason for me to buy stock.
They have a losing record in conference play, or I think just barely above 500 in conference play since the Pac-12 championship of 22 during his first full season. He hasn't yet reached the expectations that was set out for him whenever he first got there. It's been underwhelming season after underwhelming season. I think it's just going to be business as usual for USC. I think they'll be looking for another head man by the time we get to maybe not 28, maybe 29, or maybe not when we get to 27, but maybe 28 for sure. But that's going to wrap it up for us here on the Southern Sports Scene. Mitch Mason of the Three Technique joining us once again. Mitch, where can we find some of this great work that you guys are pumping out as we get closer to college football season?
Yeah, man, appreciate you having me on. This was a blast. At 3 Tech Pod is where you can find us on all of our platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We've got our Substacks booming right now as well. I mentioned we're in the thick of preview season right now. We start earlier than a lot of other big college football shows, but it's because we do a preview for each team. 138 teams, they each get their own write-up. They each get their own video. So it takes a little bit of time. We're in the middle of the Big Ten right now. SEC and Big 12 are up next. I think we're going to wrap up with the ACC. So if you want in-depth analysis, you want write-ups, you want videos, you can head on over at 3 Tech Pod. You'll find us there. Lucas, really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Mitch. Man, we appreciate your time. Make sure y'all go ahead and subscribe on over to the 3 Tech Pod as well. Make sure you subscribe to the Southern Sports Scene for more of the best news around college football. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed. Don't stress.